Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode 3 of Positivity and Pivots. This is our first LinkedIn Live episode, so we're really excited for all you watching us on LinkedIn Live. Welcome to Positivity and Pivots, where we look at ways that specific industries have focused on changing their business in order to adapt to our current situation. Today, we're focused on the travel industry. From the beginning of time, humans have yearned to travel, and we have navigated this terrain in any way that we could invent. I personally love travel. For years before this crisis hit, I spent more time on American Airlines than I did in New York. Nothing is more exciting to me than being able to spend time in new places and to be surrounded by new thinking. It might be cliche, but I'm a firm believer in the fact that we grow as individuals through our ability to experience new people and new places. That's why it pains me so much to see our hotels closed, planes grounded, and people stuck at home. Globally, travel and tourism directly contributes a massive $2.9 trillion to the GDP around the world. Given the remain-in-place strategy for defeating this virus, it is no wonder that it will be one of the industry's hardest hit. In fact, when you look at some of the projections, people are calling for a global loss of close to $2.1 trillion in revenue. To put that into perspective, that is about 6 times the impact that 9/11 had on the U.S. So we have to ask ourselves, what can be done? In short, and thank you to the travel companies who have remained resolute by gifting and donating their excess surplus towards helping relieve the crisis. All over the world, hotels, hostels have opened their doors to doctors, to nurses, to homeless, and to key workers who are unable to stay at home. At the same time, transport services have provided vehicles for delivery of essential goods or drivers to help aid in things like ambulance services. But this does not ensure the survival of these businesses post-pandemic. It is now a time more than ever to reinvent one of the most important industries to humanity. But it's going to take massive innovation in how travel is experienced. And I'm not talking about taking a holiday in virtual reality. This is time for us to point our brightest ideas and to shine the light of human ingenuity on the reinvention of this industry. And trust that our prehistoric need to travel will prevail. And that once again, we will be able to shake the hands of experience that we so yearned for long ago. I'm very excited for this show. We have an amazing episode. As always, we have our resident data expert, Tamara, who's going to share a little bit around the travel industry from a data perspective. We're very, very, very lucky to have Roger Dowell, who's the president and CEO of the U.S. Travel Association, and he's going to give us a perspective on where the travel industry is broadly. We have Christopher Janot, who is the CMO of SAP Concur. Sorry, Christopher. I think I'm hearing something. We have Krauss, who is the president and CEO of Visit Norfolk. What a very touching story. I'm actually going to play the video right after this to set the stage. What they have done was they rushed to create a campaign, and they asked people to share what they were going to do once this was over. It's so heartwarming, and it went viral. And he's going to talk about what they, as a region, are doing to reinvent themselves and their plan for what happens post this. And then we have Anna Ford from Jet Set Offset, and we have Kenny Totten, who's co-founder of Baqarah. Both very touching stories of how they've reinvented themselves, what they're doing for the travel industry, and I think a lot of inspiration for what we can potentially do as collaborators on transforming this industry. So why don't I go ahead and I will play this video by sharing my, okay, go Tamara, let's do that. I'll bring up Tamara. Go ahead, Tamara, go ahead.
Okay, well, let me kick us off with some really cool new data. And I think if we take a minute to remember what it was like just a couple weeks ago, as the industry and the travel side went through a massive changeover of itineraries and schedules and everything, what happened was we had a big wave of need to support clients and customers. And so what happened is a huge bump. And what we're looking at here is the web traffic to the support area of a travel site. It went up 119% in 1 week. And so as you can see, like the load was huge on the travel industry, and they were trying to offset their call center with going digital. What we see in the data is it's now 48% lower than it was. That's reflective of how the industry has really shifted in terms of, what amount of support is needed right now. But the really good news is that the amount of support time has gone down by 14%. And when we look at the frustration metrics, really, we saw a lot of rage clicking in early February, which means that people didn't know how to use the user interface, or there were performance problems. In fact, there actually were huge performance problems that you can see on the system performance graph in the red. This is the amount of time you saw a spinner. I know you've seen that, Bonin, right? The little spinner.
Of course.
Yeah. So a little over 25% of the visits had that, but you can see how the industry has really recovered, fixed everything that was wrong. And now going forward, we have a much better support in the digital side of travel. Quantum Metric knows this because we help all of our clients figure out how to make digital better faster. So back to you, Bonin.
Thank you so much, Tamara. I think it's interesting that the customer service side of this equation is going to become more important than ever. And I think when we think about some of the experience that will change, that's one piece that is going to become paramount to that. I just want to play some inspiration right now before we get into the conversation and look broadly at the travel industry and have Roger come up. So I am going to play the video from Visit Norfolk right now. I'm going to quickly share my screen with you guys. And here we go. And I know there was some audio challenges with the live stream earlier. Here we go.
When this is over, I can't wait to go back to Push Comedy Theater.
We're going to be the most active place in town.
When this is over, I can't wait to be back to work.
When this is over, I can't wait to go experience all of this.
Those kind of things that we take for granted because, they happen all the time, but they're not happening anymore.
When this is over, I'm going to go to dockside with my grandson.
When this is over, I can't wait to open the doors to Nomad's Clothing Exchange again.
There isn't any question I want to get back to Norfolk sports. Make no mistake about that.
I haven't been to a concert at the Norva in forever. I'm going now. So
when this is all over, I'm going to go play catch with my son in the park.
I would take a walk at the Hermitage Museum. I would visit the Chrysler and see what I've missed.
Go to Cafe Stella and get a cup of coffee.
Resuming all of those things that I loved and was able to appreciate and support, they're all on a razor's edge right now.
We're doing everything we can to keep the business going so that we're still here once this is all over.
I'm trying to just rearrange my business model, and I'm still a new business. I'm 2 years in.
I think a lot of people are praying right now that have never prayed before. And as for Jen and I, we're just hanging on here.
And I sent the email in to pitch it, and she was like, we got furloughed. So, we have to cancel everything as far as marketing right now. I get it. It's understandable.
When this is over, I really need a nap. You're going to make me cry.
To hear laughter again. Are you kidding me? To feel a rush from a crowd.
The first thing I'm gonna do when this is all over, Mike's getting ready to walk through the background.
First thing I'm going to do is send my little boy back to school. He got to go back to school.
When this is over, we're going to the zoo.
When isso acabar, nós queremos abraçar-nos.
From Railroad District to downtown to Ghent to Neon.
The city seems to be doing everything we can to come together and get through this together and do the right things.
We're talking less about what separates us and we're more focused on how we can help one another.
Beautiful. I hope that serves as inspiration for every single one of you out there. I want to get into today's episode, and so I'm going to invite Roger up to have a quick conversation. Roger, why don't you just introduce yourself to everybody?
Very good. My name is Roger Dowell, and I head up a group called the U.S. Travel Association, and we represent the U.S. $2.6 trillion travel industry. And we represent everybody in DC, from airlines and hotels to theme parks to rental cars to payment systems to city and state tourism offices, just like this great video that my good friend Kurt Krauss and his team put together from Norfolk. People like that, and it's all about travel. I'm going to start, Bonin, about when I was going once across the Canadian border, the guard stopped me and he said, "Where have you been? How long have you been there? And where are you going?" And that's what I'm going to talk about. First of all, where have we been? You look at this industry, it was basically, when you look at international, $280 billion of international visitors coming to America, 70%, $70 billion of a positive trade surplus, meaning people spent more from other countries here than we spent there. When you look at it on looking back, we employ the industry 15.8 million people. That's 1 in 10 employees in the United States get their jobs through travel. And I think back to, which seems like a year ago, but on February the 5th, I was at the press club, the National Press Club, giving a state of the travel industry remarks. And I reflected on how the travel industry was through the greatest 10 years they've ever had. Every month for 120 months, we had more revenue. I talked about how international, we're going to add more visa waiver countries, and we were just in the greatest surge ever. And I said, but it's also a dangerous time when you have so many good things going on. Little did I know at that moment, this thing called coronavirus was creeping across China, coming towards the shores of the United States, and then we began to see it in February. And we said, well, this could be pretty bad. And I recall on March the 17th, I went to the White House and I met with 7 CEOs of the hotel industry and theme park industry, with the president, with Vice President Pence, and with Wilbur Ross, the Commerce Secretary. And I said, this is really going to be bad. We're going to need a lot of money. And the president said, yeah, I think a lot of people are. I said, I'm talking probably $250 billion, maybe. And I, at that moment, didn't even realize how bad it was going to get. I went home. I live in Florida and I work in DC. I commute like a lot of people do these days. And I came home to Florida, and that was my last trip I took. And I've been here in St. Petersburg, Florida since. Let me put in perspective how badly this has gotten. Our travel industry is going to lose $519 billion this year. The GDP, because of travel, lose $1.2 trillion. That's 45% of all the money we would have made this year. But the worst part is the people part. 29 million Americans unemployed, 9 million from the travel industry. Let me put that in perspective. We're 3% of the GDP, but 30% of the unemployed, because we're so labor intensive. It was Tamara said how bad it was, you know, and Bonin started with the same thing, 7 to 9 times worse than 9/11. So what have we been working on? We've been working on first the CARES Act, which has had its stops and starts, but at least it's a great beginning to try and keep people paid and keep the lights on. Consumer sentiment says that people want to travel again, but 90% say this summer they're probably going to take a staycation, stay home. So what are we working on as an industry? The first thing we're working on is a set of industry-wide protocols from when you leave your home to when you get in a rental car, to you get to the airport, you get on a plane, then you take another rental car or Uber or taxi to a hotel, and then maybe you get on a cruise, or maybe you go to an attraction like Disney, or you go for a convention meeting. And we've decided we need a set of industry protocols to tell people this is what the industry is doing, not 500 different protocols, but this is what the industry is doing, because people want confidence it's going to be able to safe to travel again. And we found out that if the industry just says travel again, they're not going to listen to us, maybe 25%. Government says travel again, not going to listen to them, 25%. Even the medical officials, 30%. But if we put all those voices together, consumers say 65, 70% confidence ratio. So that's one thing we're working on. The next thing we're working on is recovery. We've got to get us back. And it's going to come back in slowly. It'll be regional, leisure, then business travel, then big meetings. It will come back. But every month we can bring us back more quickly than usual is $25 billion to the economy and 300,000 jobs. So it's so important, as you said, Bonin, to get this powerful industry back, because everything that happens in life follows travel. When travel goes down, everything else goes down. When travel comes back, everything else comes back. So I applaud you for holding this session on travel and tourism with so many smart people. Thank you.
Roger, I mean, you are one of those smart people, so thank you very much for agreeing. And, it's interesting because you were the impetus of the show, which I think I mentioned to you, but also of doing Travel this early. I was supposed to speak at your conference, and we were on the phone with your team talking about I'm scheduled to speak at your conference. Sorry.
You are, Bonin. You're going to be there in August. You better be there.
I caught myself, Roger. My mistake, but it's moved the date. But yes, I will be there. No hands down. And your team was just talking about how I should change the presentation for the current situation, and I agree. But then they started just telling me and explaining not just how bad, because I think we conceptually understand how travel is going to be hit, but also that in the very beginning of the stimulus package, that there wasn't really a lot of taking into account the travel industry. And so how do we make sure that we also are propping up and supporting those smaller travel owners through kind of government plans? And so we talked about that, and it just I thought travel was too sensitive to do this early, to be honest with you, in the season. And it just felt that it was the right time to move it up and have those discussions, because I don't think that people realize, to your point, that industry follows travel. I mean, I think humanity followed travel. And so I just found it interesting that we're still wrapping our heads from a government perspective on how do we support the travel industry. Any thoughts?
Well, yeah, and it's getting the government and everyone to understand, the big names like Disney, Marriott, Hilton, American Airlines, but it's 83% small businesses. These are people that bet their lives on these businesses, and they can't hang on so long. And it's so important. When you hear from Kurt Krauss, he'll talk about all the small businesses that make up the Norfolk community. And so it's those people. It's getting the government and people understand we're seen as the fun folks. Oh, travel and tourism. Oh, they're not serious like manufacturing, healthcare, financial services. But we are. We're darn serious. We also have fun in the process. We're darn serious. We have to get people to understand that. As goes travel, as goes the economy. Used to be as goes GM, goes the economy. I say as goes travel, goes the economy.
Right. And so tell me how hard it's been, because I can only imagine trying to wrestle everybody across the industry to kind of come together around protocols, or was it easy? Like, what was that work like?
Everybody gets it in concept. Right. Now, the detail of making it happen is real challenging. What I'm going to call tomorrow with the hotel association, the airlines, the theme parks, and saying, hey, look, the way I talk to them, it's like this. We can't drive across the country unless we have certain protocols, like we all drive on the right, we all stop when we see a red light, we all go when we see a green light. But maybe in California, they have HOV lanes. Maybe somewhere else you can't make a U-turn. So it's like setting the protocols that give consumer confidence, and then hotel industry, do what you need to do. Airline industry, do what you need to do. Theme parks, do what you do. But at least one set of guiding principles that the consumer can look, okay, they got this. I'm now more confident to travel.
And I think that it was interesting because I woke up the other morning and there was something about, this was right before we talked to Hilton. I was like, oh, they should do something with like a Lysol so we can give and of course they did that. So clearly I thought it was a genius idea, but it wasn't, because somebody already thought about it. But I guess that's my question. How hard hit do you think consumer confidence is right now?
Extremely hard hit. We have people that, as I said, 90% of the people say they're not going to travel until they know it's really safe to travel. Now, how do you define really safe? Right. But I've seen this before. After September 11th, people said people will never get on an international flight. Yet it followed phenomenal years of travel. It took a little while to come back. After the financial crisis, hotel industry's done. Might as well shut those hotels and turn them into office buildings. Yet we followed with 10 of the biggest years ever. We'll come back, but it's a matter of getting the consumer back. It's when Bonin makes a trip and comes back and tells his neighbors, hey, it was no problem. I felt good on the plane. I felt good in the hotel. And your neighbor says, okay, I'll travel. And that's what's going to happen. We'll come back slowly, but we can speed this thing up if we all work together.
Right. And then this is the last question. Thank you, by the way. It's again, I feel very honored to have you and to have a true industry perspective. I know that you're talking to all the people across this industry and trying to understand the challenges, and more importantly, provide the leadership to help drive it forward and allow us the luxury of, in many cases, the necessity of travel. So thinking about travel industry, what would you tell people who are looking or were looking or still looking to go into travel as a career? What does it look like as a career?
I would say absolutely stay the course. I can remember, and Kurt remember this, 30 years ago, Marriott almost went bankrupt, and I thought the industry, my life was finished. But then we went on, and we only had a few hundred hotels, and went on to have 7,000 hotels. The great thing about the travel industry is no matter what you want to do, you want to be a lawyer, hey, they make deals and build hotels. You want to be in construction, you got it. You want to be in service, you got it. You want to be in promotion and do what you do, Bonin, you can do that. You can, anything you want to do. And the great thing is you can do it anywhere. If you're in technology, you better be in the Northeast, the Washington corridor, Austin, or the West Coast. You're not working. But you can work anywhere, Fort Lauderdale or Fargo in the travel industry, Beijing, anywhere in the world. So this is going to be one of the biggest industries in the world. We've got a hiccup right now. We'll get through it. But the bottom line, stick to it, because not only is it a great industry, it's a fun industry.
Roger, thank you so much for taking the time with us. It's been a pleasure, and I really, truly have enjoyed getting to know you and just hearing kind of your continued inspiration and belief in this amazing industry. So thank you so much.
Bonin, you better show up in August, because people are registering like crazy, knowing you're going to be there. So you better show up.
I would have it no other way, Roger. I will be there, and I will bring friends, my friend.
Thank you.
6 feet, though. 6 feet. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Thank you, Roger. Jasmine, let's bring up Christopher.
Hey, Bonin.
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm great, brother. How are you?
I'm so good. Hey, why don't you just tell people what you do and who you are real quick, and then we'll jump right into the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for SAP Concur, and we're the leader in travel booking, expense reporting processes. We have over 50,000 customers worldwide. We processed last year about 148 billion in expense transactions across our cloud platform. So I'm the marketing enabler for a worldwide team of best-in-class marketers to drive demand generation, thought leadership, and ultimately the successful customer outcomes.
And you guys you have such an expansive side. So you not only see the business side from the expenses, but you also have a travel business. So you're seeing the consumer side of it. So tell us a little bit about kind of what you saw. I know you told me hard down. So tell me kind of what you saw.
Sure. So to be clear, so we have a platform for corporations, travel booking, expense reporting. And then of course, we also have TripIt, which I'm sure many of your listeners out there use as their personal travel assistant. So TripIt, it's also part of our corporate offerings, but also people use it for their consumer travel. So I don't need to tell everybody travel is hard down with capacity being removed and so forth from air and the hotels. But business is still being conducted. Right. And people are still submitting expense reports. It's just the dynamics of what they're spending money on has changed. Employees are still doing business on behalf of their customers and their companies, meeting their customers, meeting their prospects. And so some interesting things we're seeing in our expense reporting data is that social distancing is actually occurring in business. Expense transactions where sort of a business meal where I'm entertaining, let's say you, have gone down the last 2 weeks in March by 34%. Right. It's been replaced by individual meals. So there's a hard down right there, 34%. Nobody's taking their prospect or their customer out for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, down at least down by 34%. And another intriguing stat we're seeing across is that as air travel, as everyone knows, has gone down, we're seeing mileage expenses as a transaction up by 63% over an 8-week period when compared to year on year. So we say business is still being conducted. Employees are still trying to serve the customers and acquire new customers. They're just doing it in a somewhat different fashion than they had previously.
Right. And I think that data is just really inspiring in the sense that even during this time period, we are still conducting business. We're still trying to meet the demands, as you say, of our consumers or our customers. And as kind of the world eases back into whatever the new reality is going to be, I think, we'll just continue to see it be more aggressive. Is there any difference between business versus leisure travel that you're seeing?
Well, some of the early indicators that we're seeing, again, with our TripIt solution, is we're seeing an increase in out-quarter bookings on the leisure side. Right. Year on year up from previous years. And we suspect, and this is only just a speculation on our part, that, well, first off, there's pent-up demand. As Roger said earlier, leisure will recover first. We're seeing that in our data. And I think partly it's driven by people are social animals.
Right.
They want to get out. They want to meet and greet. They want to travel. You and I both frequent travelers, and I can't wait to get on a plane. I was supposed to be on a worldwide tour as we speak. And so that jives with the data that we're seeing, and business will always lag.
I just feel this is the longest I've ever been home in my life. I feel I have never seen anything like this. It's and it's funny because I feel so much more at home on an airplane than I probably do almost anywhere else. And while I'm welcoming the downtime, it also is not just seeing people, but just seeing new, just
things, cultures, right?
Yeah. So that is just. But you said something interesting, which I thought was profound in terms of. You guys had a conference that was scheduled to be live, but you guys ended up, of course, doing it virtually. But you saw something that came from that in terms of how you were working with customers. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's
yes. So we were supposed to have our user conference in Orlando, and we had to shift entirely virtual over 11 days, which my team did in incredible fashion. But we saw actually twice the level of engagement in a virtual perspective. From the number of attendees we were planning versus who actually attended. In addition, the users who would come are primarily administrators, financial or travel managers, and HR. And as part of our physical conference, we would always have these consulting sessions where our consultants would have a one-on-one session with that travel manager, that finance administrator, and we would log into their environment and we'd say, which specific business problems and challenges are you trying to solve? Because our goal is they could come away from that conference with solving one business challenge. It would justify and deliver value to their organization to why they're still using Concur and in their role. And what we found as we shifted to virtual, we had a 99% retention rate of keeping those virtual consulting sessions, where administrators wanted to say, look, I still have those same problems. I'm going to use this opportunity to reevaluate my travel policy, to review the configuration of my system, deliver a better user experience, to maybe be more specific in terms of cost control. And since then, we've had such demand from that. We've continued that over the next 2+ months to continue those virtual consulting sessions. Because as Roger would say, and I observed at the hotel in Orlando, though the hotel was 95% empty, they were repairing carpets, they were painting, they were fixing tile. And so we're seeing the same thing around finance organizations, travel managers, as they're preparing, using this downtime to optimize their system and prepare for the rebound.
Right.
And we're going to help them do that.
And look, you guys help so many companies. I use you guys for, I think, most of my natural life, pretty much. But I think that's interesting because we did have that conversation as well, which was, so many businesses, period, are looking to realizing that they didn't really have control of their financial destiny, and how do they use this time to take that step to move away from check writing. You were saying that people were like going and getting their check machine from the office, and so just
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I can talk to. I think what it shined a light on, and it's somewhat an overused term, about digital transformation, right? A lot of tech companies throw that around, but that's what it really means, because we found, especially within our small to mid-sized business customer base, is they deal with a lot of still paper manual processes. Invoices come in from suppliers, and that was the example I was given, where one of our customers were having to go send their team into the office to get the paper invoices because their suppliers were still doing things on behalf of their organization, and then bring it to the accounts payable person's house, and then she had to go in the office and get the company's check printer. So organizations realize that there's got to be a better way, especially as I'm operating in a decentralized environment. How can I eliminate paper, ensure my business continuity, and also understand what my assets and liabilities are, especially from an SMB standpoint, manage cash flow. Right. And so that's ultimately driving a high deal of interest in our Concur Invoice solution, which automates the paper, takes the paper out of the invoice process.
Right. But I think and we talked as well about cash flow management for businesses, is especially small businesses, is probably the single most important thing that they can focus on, and understanding and knowing that and being prepared for that. What are some of the surprising or unexpected innovations that you've seen during this time period?
What I'm seeing is organizations are willing to rethink their processes.
Right.
Hands down, for the reasons that you mentioned from a cash flow perspective. And we're seeing other things. And I can tell you, I think there's still innovation to be had. During previous economic downturns in 2007, 2008, we were processing about 45 billion annually in transactions. We made the decisions like, what other business challenges can we solve by exposing customers' data with their permission, so customers could solve that problem. And that level of innovation now ultimately created an ecosystem of 250 App Center partners. So we expect same thing to occur during this economic headwind. We'll drive the innovations, and our customers will also drive the innovations themselves.
Right. And I'm going to ask one last question, because I know I started a little late. We might be a little over, but you were talking about just pushing your working with your teams and talking about innovation. Like, what has that been like to be a leader through this? And like, how are you inspiring your team, and what are you saying to them? Like, what? Yeah.
I'm saying we've always been an innovative team, but now there would be a tendency to pull back and say, I'm not willing to take risk. It's an uncertain environment. I'm saying, actually, you double down on it. Now, all bets are off. Take chances, fail fast, learn from it. And as we learn things, let's share that across the organization. It's like, don't be afraid. And then second, this is also a time to skill up as well. We have, as we've shifted, we were very virtual with a lot of our digital demand generation. Now we're 100%. So we're taking people that may have put on physical events. Hey, it's a great opportunity for you to learn how do we use this virtual community platforms and so forth. So we see it as, we're presenting it as an opportunity for our marketers to take chances, learn new skills, and get out there a little bit, take some risk.
Right. Well, I know it's hard, times, and it was uncertain times. I feel like we have a little bit of a handle on right now, and I think people are feeling better. They're a little anxious to get out, like
Absolutely.
I am, like you are. But I also hope that many leaders are sharing the same messages that you're sharing with their teams, which are, if not now, when? Now more than ever, we need it, because to your point, look, I don't ever want to have to go into the office and get the check writing machine, either in a pandemic or non-pandemic.
Exactly.
Let's get rid of that. Oh my God, Chris, it was so good talking to you, as it was the first time we talked. So I'm just excited that you were able to take the time to come on the show and share with our viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bon. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Pleasure, Chris. Okay. I kind of, there we go. I almost brought you up. I almost mentioned your name early. Hey, Kurt, how are you?
I'm doing great, Bon. How are you?
I'm great. I just hope everybody really, tell who you are. And then I was going to say, I hope everybody really just appreciates that video, and what you guys will see from my conversation with Kurt, and I know we have a short time, will be what that video has spawned. And I think it's such an inspirational story about coming together. And I'm not going to take any more of your thunder. So tell who you are, and then give us a background on the video.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kurt Krauss. I'm President and CEO of Visit Norfolk, a job that I've had for about 18 months now. I come from the hotel side of things. As you heard from my good friend Roger Dowell, we worked together for many years at Marriott. Quick story, he started as a lifeguard. Look where he is today. Thank you, Bonin, for this opportunity and this invitation to speak to your group and to be part of this distinguished group of leaders, really progressive thinking leaders. It seems like years ago when we got into this mess, this coronavirus thing, but it's really only been about 9 weeks. If you think about where we were, Norfolk, we host the Mid-Eastern Atlantic Conference Men's and Women's Basketball Championships. It's the historic Black universities, colleges and universities that do their week-long tournament with us. And they've been doing it for years. They didn't make it past the quarterfinals this year before we just shut it down, and no more March dance, no more madness. It was over. And what an extraordinary reality check. Nobody knew what was ahead, for sure. I'm not sure anybody does today, but all of a sudden, where 67% of our restaurants are chef owner operated, they're down to takeouts. Restaurants or hotels are down to 10% occupancy. Some are doing much better because they have contracts with the Navy or they have contracts with shipbuilding. But for the most part, our occupancies dropped from what was in the 70s, mid 70s, to 30%. It goes to 80% next month last year and 85% in July, and we're not seeing that rebound anytime soon. So as a destination marketing organization, something that we do, we are firm believers that our role, our value, is to promote Norfolk's unique experiences and the expansive amenities that we really have to offer. Not just the visitors, but our residents too. They participate. Surveys will show that those residents, those people who live there that participate and take advantage of the museums and the shows and the restaurants, have a much higher satisfaction level. So truly, as a destination marketing organization, a DMO, we are here for everybody's visiting pleasure, if you will. We are here to bring people in, to attract people, to visit, to live, to work, to play, to study, to go to school here. In fact, our core competencies, which are important as it gets into what I'm going to talk about as our pivot point, our core competencies are messaging and attracting visitors. So if you take those two competencies and know that that's what our strengths are, how do we address what was going on? Now, Bonnet, if you recall, 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks ago into our distancing, anxiety started to set in. Parents were playing the roles of teacher at home. Now, be honest, anybody out there, who really remembers how to teach fractions? I mean, that doesn't come too easy. And on top of that, everybody's fighting for the laptop or for dad's high-speed computer. Just think of the internet feed that was being stressed around our community. So this anxiety continued to grow, and we recognize that. So we began to recognize a long-term problem without really a great solution. So we really wanted to try to find something that was unique, a unique way to go after our community, and so we went out and with the idea of let's get to our residents, let's find out what's important to them with what's one very simple question, and that was, what will you do when this is over? And we knew the anxiety was high, and we wanted it to be real, we wanted it to be authentic. So we said, just take your phone, your regular phone, and record those answers. And you know what we observed was the messages that were really authentic hope. I mean, they were a sense of pride of our city. They were talking about a coffee shop, going to see the sports again, going to the concert at the Norva, the zoo, right? The zoo, exactly. Now the Norva, 10 years ago or so, Rolling Stone magazine recognized that as the #1 concert venue in the country. So our little Norva, people know that as a place to go see the concerts. So, and there was even a nap. Let me take a nap. So bottom line, the video was very successful, extremely successful. It generated 17,000 views with a reach of over 164,000 people. It became the talk of the local industry, became the talk of city council. It was mentioned and viewed and admired all up and down the East Coast. And in fact, Bonin, today, Lonely Planet contacted us and said, would you mind, requested the video to be shown on their website.
I love it.
This is an organization that produces millions, hundreds of millions of travel guides. So we are absolutely flattered that this thing has gone
Kurt, it's done so much more too, because just tell us a little bit of what it's done bringing the region together and what's on the horizon.
So here's the beautiful story, because it continues. The pivot point, the new word pivot, we went to our next door neighbor, Virginia Beach, wonderful resort beach community on the Atlantic Ocean, connects to Norfolk through the Chesapeake Bay, the Elizabeth River, and Lafayette River. We have 168 miles of shoreline between both of us. Now, they've never, to my knowledge, worked together as promoting the region. Somewhat of a competition thing, but now everybody's recognizing that we need to work together. So not only do we have Virginia Beach working with us, but the 757 attractions from Williamsburg to Virginia Beach. So imagine that you can possibly get a ticket to go see Williamsburg and the Battleship Wisconsin in Norfolk, all on the same day. You can go to the zoo and the aquarium, and at night maybe go see the Tides, our AAA baseball team, play. Our idea is through this messaging that we're going to deliver, create a website that has all of these attractions of from Virginia Beach to Norfolk to all over our area that you can get in a one-stop shop. Let us make it easy for the traveler who's pent up. Chris talked about it. You talked about it. Our studies show that we are 93% ahead for August bookings through Expedia. If you do keyword searches, we are 122% for those that are searching for Virginia Beach or Norfolk vacations. So it's there. Let's just give a message and let's give them a place that is convenient and easy for them to book. This would not get done if it were not for this pandemic. This would not get done if we weren't trying to all come together as a region, all because of Norfolk, hashtag Norfolk Together. Now it's about, let's be together at last. So I'm going to tease you. I would love to show the video, the next messaging that we have to go out, but it's not going to go out till June. It's going to knock your socks off. It's going to show the region in such great light, and it's together at last. All because of one simple question: what are you going to do when it's over?
I love it. Together at last. Kurt, it's the comments are coming in. It's inspirational. Hey, man, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. And again, I just find that your story is a story that is something that we should all think about: is how do we come together and work together versus separate? Because so much. I mean, look, if Virginia can do it, then we can too. But I think the point is, it's going to take all of us to come out of this. And so, Kurt, thank you so much.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for allowing me.
I have an idea for you too to help, just as a side note, but I won't wait until I see you. I'll call you later. How's that? All right, Kurt, thank you so much. Bye. Hey, guys, I know we're running a little bit late. We have 2 more pivot stories. We're bringing up Anna Ford. Both of these are spectacular and amazing. You're going to want to hear these. And the change that they've made to their business is not just inspiring, but I think potential lessons that we can all learn from. Anna, hello. Who are you? Share with us, please.
Hi, Bonin. How are you? So again, hi, I'm Anna Ford, and I am the CEO of Jet Set Offset. And prior to this crisis and prior to becoming a startup founder, I was a road warrior for a biotech company. I think I traveled for almost 10 years straight, over 100,000 miles every year for business travel. I love to travel for business, for leisure. It's a passion of mine. But I'm also a climate change activist and environmentalist. And so my personal love of travel also posed a real dilemma in my life. At home for a very long time, I've been very mindful of my carbon footprint and all ways that I can reduce it. But then I would get on an airplane several times a year or month, or in my corporate days, a week. And so I think, like you, Bonin, and probably many people listening that also have a love for travel, air travel was, and I think very soon will again be, my gravest carbon sin.
Right.
So about Jet Set Offset, I built Jet Set Offset so that travelers can help to fight climate change, not just cause it every time they fly. We've built a platform that connects eco-conscious travelers with environmental nonprofit organizations that work on the ground in myriad ways to combat climate change. And we facilitate 1 cent per mile donations to a traveler's charity of choice when they fly. And so we've built Jet Set Offset. It's a feel-good, donation-based approach to carbon offsetting.
Right, but I mean, not only just feel good, you're offsetting the ability for people to, support the institutions that are actually helping to, bring about climate change. So I think it's a brilliant solution, and now you guys you've changed because people aren't traveling, but people have still traveled, so they can tell a little bit about what they can do now.
Okay, so before I get into that exact pivot, Bonin, I think I want to share that this crisis and its devastation, it does look a little bit different for a travel startup and company like ours that's focused on sustainability. We see real signs of hope right now and optimism as we look outside. We see clearer skies and improved air quality, and wildlife is flourishing. And I think I read today or yesterday that wild baby storks are going to hatch for the first time in a century in the UK. Amazing things are happening while we stay home. And so we have an opportunity to be mindful of that, and I think put sustainable systems in place as the industry comes back and as we travel again. So on a practical level, what we're doing at Jet Set Offset right now and pivoting, if no one's traveling, that means that no mileage-based donations are going to our environmental partners. And these nonprofits are struggling right now too. So the first thing we did was we adapted our technology to allow travelers to make donations for past flights. So you could go onto jetsetoffset.com right now and make a donation 1 cent per mile for any flight you ever took in the history of your life. And that's part of our Earth Month campaign to support our nonprofit partners. That's the first thing that we did. The other thing that we're doing right now is really shifting our messaging from, reduce the environmental impact of air travel when you fly, for your next flight, make sure you're making these donations. We've really shifted it to being mindful and preparing for a more sustainable future when we do go back to travel. So we've shifted our messaging a bit, and we've shifted our product. We're right now using this time. We're really grateful to be a part of the SAP.io Foundry with Concur, focused on travel technology for businesses. So we're building out Jet Set Offset for Business, trying to stay positive. I think it is a great time for businesses to integrate new technology and really think about long-term sustainability. So we're focused on that product. And we're also thinking, is now the time maybe to use our tech and adapt it for mileage-based offsets for car travel, train travel, shipping, maybe even virtual meetings and the cloud and server energy that goes into forms like this. So we're really thinking comprehensively about travel and mobility, even beyond air travel during this time.
All right. Well, I have a lot of miles. I'm going to get on that.
Good. Jetsetoffset.com.
Yeah. There you go. Anna, your positivity shines through. We're super excited that you're in this world. And I agree with you. It's like the animals were like, what? And
yeah.
the like, breathe again? I know. And you're like, we just had to stay home for a month, and all of a sudden the entire satellite photo changes. Anyway, Anna, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Bonin.
Okay, last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, this is a story that you're going to want to hear. When I heard it, I couldn't believe it. And actually, I think that what's going to come out of this is a much bigger business than he went into. And so I'm very, very excited to have Kenny Totten with us. Why don't you tell us who you are and a little bit about what your first business was? You're muted. Gotcha, Kenny. Sorry, our producer, Jasmine, didn't pick that up. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Okay.
Sorry about that. Well, thank you for having me. I am Kenny. I'm one of the co-founders of Baqarah. And like Anna, we're part of the SAP Concur Foundry. And we went into the program and we were going to launch Baqarah.com, which would have been the world's first central marketplace for group airfare. So groups of 10 or more traveling together, they have to book offline. And we were going to launch that this spring. And then coronavirus happened and our bookings on the TMC side went to 0. And for the next few months, we don't anticipate any change in travel demand. And but internally, what was happening is we had over 15,000 people cancel flights that we had on the books. Right. And our agents were really busy rebooking people because they wanted to look for the fall or they wanted to look for next year. And we saw something fascinating. While they were on the phone while our agents were on the phone with clients, they had a booking engine up on the left side of the screen, and then they had like a coronavirus map or stats up on the right side. And we were like, oh, okay, well, this shopping experience is becoming fused. And so, and we service a lot of like schools and universities and businesses and group travel. And then just the other day, we were planning a vacation. My mom just had brain surgery, and I wanted to give her something nice to look forward to when she got out of it. And so we were planning a family trip to Hawaii, and she kept sending me screenshots of the coronavirus stats there. And I was like, geez, this is going to be part of people's travel experience. So we launched SmartCheck Travel. And what it is it ties coronavirus statistics to airport codes and hotel destinations. And it's designed for people like Concur or an airline or an OTA, where they can incorporate that into their shopping experience. So the next time that you go on delta.com, if Delta wants to integrate with us, you could search for Los Angeles and you can see contextually all of the data about 75 miles surrounding the city of Los Angeles and the airport. So it kind of fuses the shopping experience. It puts the customer first. And our hope is that as the world gets better at dealing with this, one of the pieces of data that we show is the amount of daily new cases, and we enable an airline or Concur to show it on a graph. And hopefully that graph just starts to go down and down and down, and people start to feel more confident about booking travel. So we launched that, and we launched it this week. We've been working on it for about a month, and we pitched it to about 40 airlines with IATA yesterday. And I've been fielding questions all morning and all day concerning the integration. So it's been well received.
When I first heard it, I called my team. I was like, "How did we not see this?" No, I think it's well, I think even more important is that it's a service that continues to do the thing that is necessary for the industry. It's consumer confidence. How do we continue to help consumers have the confidence that it's safe to travel again? And to your point, it's not just showing numbers. Like, we launched a state updates where you can get text updates by zip code of, but and that's the very first thing I realized is as they were coming in, I'm like, this is kind of not what you really want is a chart, a graph that's showing the progression, not something that's just, because you can't really conceptualize what that means. What do those numbers really mean other than they're big and they're, you know, and that's unfortunate, but what you really want to see is that they're going down, so that's what I love about it. But there's, I know this is my last question. There are other applications though that people are suggesting that are even possible with this that you didn't even think about going into this.
Yeah, so we really built it with the idea of putting it inside flight shopping, like inside of Expedia, Concur, Google Flights. And what happened is we had some airlines contact us and we want the data for like risk planning and route planning. And we're like, oh, wow. And then we even had a logistics company ask us like, hey, can we look into this for route planning and moving goods and services around the world too. So even on SmartCheck Travel, if you're just a consumer, you can go on the website today and type in an airport code and you can see a 75-mile radius of the coronavirus stats. And we're getting better with the data every day. So I think as time progresses, we'll even see different use cases too.
And let me just ask a question, because I know there's a lot of owner-operators on this. When is it going to come to, when can I get a smart check on a restaurant? When can I get a smart check on a hotel?
Yeah. So hotel, we will have up in about 2 weeks. And basically anything that has a longitude and latitude, we should be able to put in there. So in theory, we'll be able to put in restaurants as well. And we'll be able to kind of tie into Google Maps and steal the longitude and latitude. And then we can show you basically any address in the world.
Thank you so much, Kenny. It's been such a pleasure. Enjoy. So everybody, this has been another episode of Positivity and Pivots. I'm Bonin Bao. It's brought to you by SAP.io and Quantum Metric. And I just want to say in closing really quickly that not only was I inspired by the stories we have here, but I've been inspired by many of the submissions that we've received. And I would encourage people to continue to submit. Some of the largest operators of travel and tourism submitted to us, small mom and pop, and every single one of them finding a new way to believe that they can change their business model to address not just the needs of today, but what their business is going to look like in the future. And I think as we enter into this phase of rebuild, that is probably the single most important thing that businesses can do. I've been talking about it for pretty much 2 months, which is we are flattening the curve from a health perspective and saving precious human lives. At the same time, we have a small business economy that is being threatened in an unprecedented way that we've never seen before. And we have to think about how do we flatten the decline. And now that we're kind of coming on that other side, it's really how are we preparing for the appropriate rebuild to jumpstart the businesses that have suffered so much. So I encourage you to continue to submit. Next week, we have an amazing lineup of guests as well. We're talking about the CPG category. I know many people think, oh my God, they've been selling a ton of products. But there's two interesting things that have happened in the CPG category. One, they had to figure out how to ramp up dramatically and hit surge products that they've never seen before. Just make more water, one beverage manufacturer told me they were told. And then on top of that, they also have to figure out how to do that by maintaining social distancing and inspiring all of their key essential workers to come to work to deliver the life-saving products that we use every single day. And then on the second side of that is, what does that mean when we come out of this? Because at the end of the day, many of these companies also sell into our small mom and pop businesses. So when we think about what's happening in the economy, we have to remember that really every industry is going to be forever changed. And so positivity and pivots will continue to be here to look at those creative ways and the solutions that you can help to change your business in a specific industry. Again, this has been Bon and Val. This was our first live, and I'm very excited that you got a chance to join us. Thank you so much.